Hello, this is Kathy. Welcome to my channel. In this series, I would like to show you the most talented students in Japan about their work, achievements, and their stories. Please remember to subscribe and feel free to leave your stories in the comment below.
社会に届ける足場としての建築スタジオ足場を開校しています。
Today I have invited my classmate Yuta and ASIBA. He's the first student entrepreneur that I met who founded the architecture studio program ASIBA. His program is developing at an astonishing speed. In the first session, they have successfully invited major architecture firms in Japan for support and gathered a group of like-minded people to form a close-knit community. And by the start of the second session, the number of students have increased from 8 to 20. Today, I want to ask him about what exactly he's doing, how he got into it, and what it's like to run a startup company. So the first question is, what is ASIBA?
So ASIBA, in Japanese, it means scaffolding, like in architectural context. It means the support that surrounds a construction site. But at the same time, it's an acronym for architecture studio for impact-based action. This impact-based action part comes from one of a concept that one of the professors at University of Tokyo has came up with, and it's called impact theory in entrepreneur context. And that means to not just think of an idea or come up with a future prototypes or futuristic ideas, but to actually implement that into society and make it into an impact. In our department, we have studio classes. All the students in these architectural studios have very innovative ideas or maybe some artworks that's very impressive. But at the end of the day, all these proposals or ideas just becomes one of the pages in our portfolios. And it doesn't go anywhere outside of the school. But after being in these design studios for 3 or 4 years already, I came to realize that these ideas, it could become something of a value, actual value to the society. So right now I'm trying to make a new design program where students come and similarly they make something. They make a proposal or they make a business idea or artwork. But it doesn't just end there. I'm trying to make a program where the students can actually build that into an actual business or an actual project and move it on to a bigger field. There is a bridge that needs to be constructed between that, and that's what ASIBA is.
So what was the moment that made you realize you want to do this?
In this last year where we were doing the studio together, we actually went to an island. In that island, there's only like 400 or 500 islanders, and all of them are elderlies. There is almost no children, and there's so many vacant houses in that island. So the topic of that studio was to make use of these vacant houses and somehow create or imagine a future for that island. In the studio, all I did was draw a plan and making a schedule for these events. And maybe coming up with these not very typical type of ceremony. We came up with the original ideas, original works to do in these events. And at the final presentation, I presented a storytelling board to imagine what would happen if we do this kind of ceremony. But that didn't end there, and that was the important part. So after I proposed that plan with all the professors and teachers who were participating in the studio, they were actually very eager to realize this plan. So from there, we took about 3 months to construct an actual plan to do this event. In the summer break, we actually went there to deconstruct or demolish one of these vacant houses together with the island people and students from around the world. People came together and made this kind of a ceremonial festival-ish demolition event. So that was one of the first experience for me to actually make something that we imagined in the studio to be realized in real life and actually make someone happy or something change. So in ASIBA, I don't teach anything because I'm a student as well. I just invite students to come together to this platform. And I invite architects and entrepreneurs, startup CEOs to this program for them to teach the participants about how to make a business plan or how to make a project to realize a project. And of course, we have these small sessions or feedback sessions or study groups or lectures, workshops that we organize. But at the end of the day, those events that we hold in these 3 months are just inputs. But if we want to realize a project, we have to do something. Like the participants themselves have to do something. Say they have to make a prototype, they have to go interview their customers, they have to ask for a company to help out, they have to ask someone to rent a venue, or the participating members themselves have to move their own feet to make it happen. A lot of architecture students think that business is difficult. But if you actually dive into that field, you realize how simple it is. Of course, it's hard to make it grow big and maybe be successful, but at least to do something, to sell something to someone, or to make a new business plan, to experiment with those things is, I feel it's much easier than designing a house, because you just have to do it. And as you do it, you can kind of restructurize your own skills into, more business effective ways. But I think the core principle of business is really, really simple. You just have to make something that somebody wants.
So as a new startup company, how do you operate ASIBA?
Operate, you mean like revenue or something like that?
Yeah, and also how you find all these people to help you, and how do you gather students? How do you promote your idea? And how do you invite critiques?
I see. So last year in June, I met this friend in Waseda, and he is doing startup right now as well. And we had the same idea that all these new systems have to be built inside architectural educational system. And we just agreed on that on the day we met. And we said, okay, let's do it. And we invited one or two of our friends, each of our friends. So we had like a team of 5 in the first few weeks. In the first session, we kept on going with these 5 core members. But after the first session ended, I think the name ASIBA actually came to be known around our architectural community.
Yes.
So right now we have a team of 20, just organizing the incubation program.
Are you paying them?
No. And I'm not paying myself either.
Volunteers.
Yeah.
So all of this work that you do is like free work.
Yeah, but I don't call it work, because for me it's a challenge. It's a challenge to build a new system as well. And I am pretty confident that maybe in a year or 2, it will become a solid business. Next semester we're doing the 3rd session, and the next year the 4th, the 5th. So we will continuing to kind of increase the community.
How did you actually get in contact with the big companies and those critiques? How do you actually invite them to join?
To be honest, the most important factor that I had is the name, the University of Tokyo, which is like the strongest key to large companies or guests. So I would say, I'm a student at the University of Tokyo, I'm doing this, that, can you come? And they're like, okay.
Really? That easy?
Yeah. And people don't realize how strong the term University of Tokyo is, like, for real.
Yeah.
Yeah. In this country, it's like a master key card to everywhere. And I think after I contact one of them and make them a part of our community, they would try to invite their friends or their relating companies to the community themselves. So I think the important thing is to make even just one of those super actors, players, into the community. And then they would do everything else for us. The value that ASIBA has is not the guests or the program, lectures, workshops. No, it's not those things that we prepare for them. I think it's the community that we have in ASIBA, where each of us kind of are looking out at each other.
And you also said creating ASIBA actually helped you personally in a way that you can break out from this normal expectations from society.
Yeah. In Japan, in our university at least, there is so few options for students to go after graduating. By so few, I mean they're really good options. Like they go to consulting firms or construction companies or design firms. And I think those choices are really nice and high level, but something makes them pressured to follow these paths that everyone else takes. Those pressure is so strong in the school that after you enter the master's course, you would start not from research, not from design, you start from job hunting.
And job hunting lasts for over a year.
Yeah. Like, why? That's not the purpose that you enter graduate school. And as I'm doing ASIBA, now I'm not doing any job hunting because I think I can survive 1 or 2 years at least. I'm trying to make a place where peer pressure for me feels like pressure towards being free. So right now in the ASIBA community, there's no pressure to choose from construction company or design firm. Everyone is doing different things that I can be comfortable to choose a different path for me as well.
Is there any suggestions that you can give to the students who are not sure about their future? Or not only students, but also like people who just started their career and feels very uncertain.
One direct approach would be to take a year off. Unimaginable things happen in a year off period. The reason why I'm here in the architecture department is because I took a gap year. In that gap year, I went to different classes. I smuggled into different schools, and in that few months, I met my professor Kato, and he led the way for me to be inside this school, in this department. I think that kind of changed my life in that class. So that kind of thing happens a lot in a year off. But definitely I could say for a student, it's so easy to take a gap year. There's no risk at all. And even for someone already working, I don't think it's much of a risk. It's more of a risk to continue what you don't like or what you feel uncertain of.
True.
So to balance those two risks, I would say the risk to take a year off is much, much lower. Yeah. You just need the courage to change the paradigm that you're in right now. Like some people tell me that they are afraid of taking gap year because they feel like they would be home watching Netflix for a whole year. But as someone who had been watching Netflix for a few months during the gap year, I would say people, especially people who have the courage to take a gap year, would feel like they have to do something after maybe 1 or 2 months of watching Netflix. They would feel tired of watching Netflix, and then they would automatically start something for sure. So I don't think you could be concerned about that.
They kind of give pressure to themselves.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
At an on-campus exhibition, I found out about his startup for the first time. At that moment, it felt like something had struck my heart. As a student not so young already, I initially came here to Japan for a better diploma, maybe a better job, and a new life experience. However, I now feel a constant force urging me to do something more. Consequently, this series of interviews was born. The accomplishments of these students might not hold much significance yet, but in the process of communicating with them, it seems like my life path has also been given new choices.